We understand that statistics is something related to data, analyzing the data for statistical inferences. So if you want to analyze the data for inference, you should first of all collect the data. So for that you should know what is data first of all. So what is data? Data is nothing but a quantitative information about a particular characteristics under a consideration. So data is basically what is known as quantitative information about a particular characteristics. Of course, we can make a distinction between what is known as qualitative data and what is known as quantitative data. But this qualitative data, if it should be considered a part of statistical analysis, then this should also be converted into quantitative data. So only then an analysis can be carried out. So a quantitative character is basically a variable character in nature. So quantitative character is basically a variable, or it is something which is measurable in quantity. So this variable can also be now divided into two. It can be either a discrete variable or it can be something known as continuous variable. So what is discrete variable and what is continuous variable? When a variable assumes a finite or a countably infinite number of isolated values, it is called as discrete variable. Let's have some example. Say the number of petals in a flower, or the number of misprints in a book, or the number of road accidents in a particular locality. All these are example for discrete variables. So what is continuous variable? A variable can be called as continuous variable if it can assume any value in a given interval. So let us take some example. Say you carry the information about height, you carry the information about weight, you carry the information about sales, profit, and so on. So these are all called as continuous variable. So this is something related to the quantitative data. Let's move on to the qualitative. See, the qualitative characteristics is called as attribute. So what is attribute? If you want to give an example, for attribute, say for example you take the record of gender of baby, or you take the record of nationality of a person, or you take record of color of flower. So all these can be called as attributes. So let me summarize. The data now, it can be classified, the data itself can be classified into two. One is primary data, the other one is called as secondary data. So we understand data is something called variable. We have understood the discrete variable, continuous variable, but this data can be classified into two categories. One is primary, the other one is secondary. So the collection of data as to whether it is primary or it is secondary also has very important role in statistics. The data which are collected for the first time is called primary data. So this collection would be done by an investigator or agency, whereas the data which is used from the primary data, is called as secondary data. So it is used by a different person or it is used by a different agency.